Well, now Henning, over to you in the Nordic region, and yeah, just interested to get a perspective from you on the outlook for M&A in salmon farming and processing, farming in Norway, obviously, and then salmon processing in continental Europe. Do you foresee the pandemic driving more consolidation in these subsectors?
I don't. Sorry. In general, I've seen the M&A activity in the salmon farming as quite low, but ongoing for some years. We don't see any big changes on that due to the pandemic, but we do think that the consolidation on the salmon farming will continue. But that will be driven more on optimizing operation and scale effects and new regulations and generation shifts more than the pandemic actually. When it comes to the processing part, so we do that. One of the I think we learned from the pandemic is that, and the farmers have learned, is to see the value of being through the whole value chain. And as mentioned from the speakers before, especially those mid products, pre-packed consumer products into retail and also e-trade, I think we will see more focus from the bigger salmon farming companies on that part of the value chain. So yeah, the answer is yes, a small increase maybe in due to the pandemic on the processing part, but the state ongoing on the salmon farming sector.
Yeah, so yeah, with I guess with the last year we saw a few sales of smaller family-owned companies, and then also obviously the Norway raw salmon divestment as well. So do you think that there'll be more kind of the smaller family-owned companies will get snapped up by the bigger ones, or do you think there could potentially be mergers between smaller companies to form, larger kind of private-owned companies, or sort of give us a bit more detail on how you think it will evolve in Norway in the salmon sector?
Yeah, and we were advisor for one of the smaller companies that we acquired last year, and I think we will see more of that. I think it will be more difficult to be a very small salmon farmer, and I think it would be more important to have integrated operations. So I also think that we will see mergers between medium-sized companies, and in kind of some mergers and some cooperations, joint ventures, and but also ongoing consolidation especially from the smallest farming companies, and that will probably also be due to generation shifts as a trigger for some.
And on the cross-border front, I mean, Ignacio, I wanted to get some thoughts from you on this, because you've done several deals over the past few years, which have both been resource-based and sort of market-based, where it's been foreign companies, overseas companies getting into the US. Do you think that will continue, or will that be kind of a bit subdued by this situation, and the deals you're working on will be more, US companies buying other US companies?
I think that this is going to accelerate, and there are going to be certain, long-term strategic changes in the market, I believe. This pandemic really broke up, the value chains both ways. For large companies in the US accessing, raw material. And for raw material producers overseas, also realizing that they couldn't reach their markets, and at the beginning created a little bit of chaos there. Two topics that we strongly believe are going to bubble up are secure market access or market control, for large raw material producers, both wild caught and also particularly aquaculture. They will want in the future to make sure that they can access and control the value chain all the way to the market, because otherwise they get stuck with the product and causing tremendous pain on the origination side. But likewise, at least in the U.S. And I would say Canada as well, the lack of control over the resources, given that, at least in the U.S., we import close to 90% of the seafood we consume every day, will bubble up the topic of food security. Probably the first reaction that we saw in this changing attitude is the latest proclamation of support for acceleration of aquaculture produced in the U.S. That had never happened before, and probably what we're going to see over the next 5 years is an increasing value or strategic value of having locally produced seafood, and not only for quality control, but also to make sure that in the future, if the distribution chain, the logistic chains, they break up, product is still available to the market, at least for certain species. But clearly, there is going to be consolidation. Clearly, we need larger players as well to be able to invest, and these are going to be big drivers for M&A in the next 2, 3, 4 years.